Week 10 is here. We've got an exciting slate of games, many of which are in division and will determine the fate of quite a few team seasons. Starting things off though, we've got our final international game of the year in Germany, featuring the Carolina Panthers and New York Giants. Now I'll let my co-host talk in large part about the Giants. I just want to highlight a few things about the Panthers. This is kind of a young, fun team. Jalen Coker, Jatavian Sanders, Brooks, Chuba Hubbard, Xavier Legette, these are talented young players who are either rookies or, in Chuba Hubbard's case, just got a long-term extension. This offense, kind of electric. The O-line and the interior of it playing very well. Bryce Young, best game of his young career last week against the Saints. This team's a little fun, a little scrappy. They're underdogs. They're not good. Their defense stinks. But I think this is going to be an interesting performance from the Panthers offense this week. I think they continue to build continuity, momentum, get Bryce Young some more confidence, which he had back in college, and we see maybe 20, 25 points, a decent showing all in all. That will not be enough to get them a win, but I digress. Tristan, talk about the Giants.
You know, people have been memeing this game as a bad game to be put on the national stage, or international stage, my apologies.
Hey, better than any other football game they're playing in Germany this year.
That is true, and you would feel kind of bad for them, but this game is going to be interesting. You have the worst defense in the NFL in the Carolina Panthers, giving up 32 points a game, and then you have the worst scoring offense in the NFL, scoring 15.2 points a game for the Giants. You have a movable force meeting a movable object.
That's not how it's a stoppable force meeting a movable object. It's not a movable force meeting a movable object.
A movable force is going to be...
No, you don't get to edit that out. I'm going to wave my...
A movable
Leave
force...
this entire thing in the video.
A movable force is meaning a stoppable object. Two very bad halves of the field. And then on the flip side, for each of these teams, the Giants have the most sacks in the NFL, and Bryce Young has shown a propensity to get pummeled by opposing defensive lines. So it is going to be electric, maybe not the type of electric we'd like to see from teams every single week. And when it comes to who I think is going to win this game, Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors, Tyrone Tracy, they should be able to put up enough offensive production to beat the worst defense in the NFL.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree. Dexter Lawrence is the best nose tackle in football, the best nose tackle we've seen for a very long time. He should be able to get some movement on the interior of the Panthers O-line. They've been playing better. They spent money on it in the offseason. Not going to matter. He's going to get production, get pressures, maybe even a sack, and that's going to free up enough for the rest of that D-line and that defense to really get things going, force a turnover, force some sacks, in some drives. I'll say it's a fairly high-scoring game, but I also got the Giants winning this one, unfortunately. On to a much more compelling game, though. We've got the Patriots taking on the Bears. Number 3 takes on number 1 in Chicago. And the biggest myth some people still have going is that our pals, the New England Patriots, have a functional defense. That's not the case. First 4 games of the season, when they were healthy, when they had Jabril Peppers, they were giving up 22 points a game. Now, over their past 4, they've given up close to 29 a game. This defense is sorry. They stink, and Caleb Williams has made a habit of victimizing sorry defenses all year. On the other side of the ball, defensively for the Bears, did not play well last week against the Cardinals. This Cardinals offense has a much better rushing attack than the Patriots, a much more balanced passing attack. And, of course, they got Montez Sweat back on Chicago's defensive line. That makes their defense a whole lot better. They are going to dominate this Patriots O-line, force Drake May to make some bad throws, bad decisions, and due in large part to the quality of talent around him, number 1 will emerge victorious over number 3 this week.
This is the perfect game for the Bears to get back on track after a couple really rough performances where fans have been calling for Matt Eberflus's head. They're playing a team that is not all that talented in the slightest. You mentioned how good Caleb Williams has been against bad defenses, and the only player you may say the Patriots have an advantage at, maybe like Ramondre Stevenson, better than what the Bears have in their backfield.
Quarterback.
Drake May doesn't, but if you say you like Drake May better than Caleb Williams, it is not like Drake May has a ton of weapons to go beat a Bears defense that is very good, especially when they have Montez Sweat on the field. I think this is an easy game for the Bears to get back in some type of groove as they head next week where they're going to have to play the Packers at home.
Yeah, not going to be a fun one next week for Chicago, but we don't really need to drone on about this game. It's a mediocre team playing a bad team. Bills versus the Colts, a good team playing a mediocre team, and Joe Flacco is still Indianapolis' quarterback, so their run game a little bit limited. Look, I don't think this one's going to be close. I think the Bills offense runs away with it. We saw what the Vikings offense did, score 27 points on this team if their idiot kicker can make some kicks. The Bills offense is better than the Vikings. They are going to score at least 30, and that would be way more than their defense allows this Indianapolis team to score. I don't think the Colts really have much of an advantage anywhere if you match up offense to offense. Maybe you want to say Jonathan Taylor is better than James Cook, but James Cook's having a great year, is on pace to score 12 more touchdowns than he did last season, a very effective runner of the football. There is no strong area of power this team can really unify around, move the ball around, and I just don't think they can keep up with Buffalo, particularly Josh Allen, who is in desperate need to respond to Lamar Jackson's MVP-level performance he just put on display on Thursday night. I think he really cooks this week.
I agree with who's going to be the winner this week, but I do think it is going to be a close game because I think it's somewhat of a trap game for the Bills. The week after this, the Bills are going to have to play Kansas City, which will give them an opportunity to maybe compete for the 1 seed. They'd have a tiebreaker, and then they would only need the Chiefs to win one more game. And this is a Colts team that with Joe Flacco on the field, their offense has been much more productive. We've seen Michael Pittman, we've seen Josh Downs, we've seen Alec Pierce have big games with Joe Flacco throwing them the ball, and Jonathan Taylor has been a very solid running back this season. So I think if the Bills are caught looking past the Colts this week, looking ahead towards that Chiefs team, that Chiefs game, which is the biggest game of their season, this game is going to get close, but I do still think they're going to win because you mentioned comparing the talent on either side of the ball. The Bills have Josh Allen. Amari Cooper hopefully playing this week, and their defense should be solid enough matching up with the Colts offense, where the Colts defense is still giving up the top 5 worst in yards allowed per game.
Hey Tristan, how many offensive touchdowns did our pals the Indianapolis Colts have last week?
1.
Wrong. 0. They only scored a touchdown based off that fumble, scoop, and score. This offense scored 6 points. The only great performance they have had in Richardson's absence was against a Jaguars defense, which we both think is terrible. I am by no means advocating for AR to go back in the lineup. He helps their run game, and the passing game has not been that good. This Colts offense is not good with Joe Flacco inserted into it. I don't think this one's going to be close. The Bills are winning it. But keeping it in the AFC South in terms of games which will not be close, the Minnesota Vikings are headed down to Duval to face off against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jaguars' only hope of winning this game is if there is water on the field, weather, which takes half a step out of the Vikings' passing attack and lets their edge rushers, who are used to Cam Robinson, get off, get around him, get a few sacks on Sam Darnold, really turn the momentum of this game. I don't think that's going to happen. Every game from now on will have us discussing, is this the one which finally gets Doug Peterson canned? Nothing's changing about that. The Vikings offense is driving up and down the field on this sorry Jaguar secondary, scoring a ton of points, and their defense is getting after a diminished Jacksonville offensive line. Trevor Lawrence stands up relatively well against the blitz, but oh man, he is not going to be able to deal with the amount of pressure this Vikings team is going to generate. His O-line cannot win pass blocking reps one-on-one, let alone 7-on-5. It's going to be a rough watch for this Jaguars offense. Unless they get something going on the ground, they are going to get shut out. A bad showing all around for Jacksonville. The Vikings are winning. And I'd potentially throw a mulligan in this week. You'll like this one. I'm not going to do it because they overcame this last week, but if Sam Darnold has a clear penalty get committed on him involving his helmet, which directly results in the other team scoring points, as has happened the past 2 weeks, I might be inclined to say the Jaguars win. Ultimately, I'm not putting that one in play because they overcame that last week and still won, but something to watch.
Weak man, calling mulligans every single week. So next thing I know, you're going to need 2 mulligans a week in order to tie me in overall record predictions.
Tristan, I don't think you feel good about yourself based off those comments, but hey, I'm sorry your mind isn't creative.
I hope this game is a high-scoring game. I need Trevor Lawrence, I need Brian Thomas to put up some fantasy points this week, but I don't think that's going to be the case. That is wishful thinking. And if you saw what Jamar Chase just did to the Ravens secondary, which is really bad, Justin Jefferson may break the single-game receiving yards record unless Sam Darnold decides to spread it around. Because this Jaguars defense, they're just as bad as the Ravens passing defense, and when the Jaguars offense is not even close to what the Ravens offense offers, it means their defense is going to be on the field even more. So I would be shocked if the Vikings don't put up at least 30 points this week.
I will say this about Jamar Chase. I don't think he's as good as Justin Jefferson. He's definitely in that tier right below him. In terms of taking out the trash, beating up on bad opponents, nobody does it better than Jamar Chase. He stat pads like a mofo against sorry secondaries, so I don't think Jefferson can quite match his 260-yard performance against the Ravens. I digress, though. We agree how that game's going to go. Hopefully Cam Robinson gets some revenge on his former team. Broncos versus the Chiefs. And there's a part of me which wants to pick the Broncos for one very clear reason. Brad Allen is working this game. Now, you may know who Brad Allen is because that whole debacle which took place where the Lions tried to improperly declare their tackle as eligible, and then he caught all the heat for it because Dan Campbell turned into a crybaby over it. That's not how you should view Brad Allen. Brad Allen is a good official who last season was shackled with an incompetent crew. He is one of the best head referees in all of football. And the Kansas City Chiefs have a pedestrian 5-4 record in games which Brad Allen is officiating. He plays things by the book. He does not let the NFL narratives, the shield, the penalties, the false starts get in his way. He officiates the Chiefs fairly. So they'll be facing the Broncos on an even playing field this week. Having said that, there is no position which the Broncos are better at than the Chiefs. Head coach? No. Quarterback? No. Offensive line? No. Weapons? No. D-line? No. Linebackers? No. Secondary? Maybe. It's at Arrowhead. It's not going to be close. Sean Payton is going to get sunned by Andy Reid. And I really do wish I could finally pick against the Chiefs with some confidence, but I must stay the course and keep predicting the Broncos to lose.
Prior to last week's set of games, I would have maybe made an argument for Bo Nix and this Broncos team to make things competitive. Maybe this week they just make it competitive because it is a divisional matchup, and that sometimes happens across the NFL. But after last week, where we saw Bo Nix do nothing against a Ravens secondary that is pathetic, and that Ravens offense did to that Broncos defense what we saw them do, and this Chiefs team now has an answer at wide receiver with DeAndre Hopkins, who's complementing the rest of the Chiefs' weapons perfectly. This is not going to be a close game. They now have two threats in DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce, that can get open with ease against zone coverage. They have a couple burners that can beat you down the field. Kareem Hunt and that interior offensive line is being productive in the run game. And then you have Patrick Mahomes. The Broncos, 4 of their 5 wins have come against the Panthers, Saints, Raiders, and Jets. The Jets was a 10-9 win. So even though they may be above 500, and you have people out there like Colin Cowherd singing Bo Nix's praises, they're going to lose in big fashion.
Spectacular fashion. You know, the inability to throw the football over the middle of the field or further downfield than 10 yards with consistent accuracy would generally turn some people off a star quarterback or a rookie quarterback. But for Bo Nix, the 24-year-old wonder kid, we make some exceptions, of course. But no, since you wanted to do a game, you can do the Atlanta Falcons taking on the New Orleans Saints.
I'll do the next 5 games.
You will not do the next 5. You can do the next 3.
Maybe the Saints receive a little bit of boost via an interim head coach. They're playing the game in New Orleans, but the New Orleans Saints organization is an abject disaster. They have the longest losing streak in the NFL. Derek Carr doesn't seem to exactly be beloved in that building by the fans or his teammates. And the only thing that offense has left going for them, with Chris Olave being injured, Rashid Shaheed, I think he's done for the year, is Alvin Kamara. So they don't have that much talent. Defense hasn't looked great. The Falcons are going to blow them out of the building with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Tyler Algier, and that very good offensive line.
I see the Falcons' weapons actually get the decency of a name shout this week. Very polite of you. The interim head coach boost is a thing. Darren Rizzi, as I've been calling him, the Rizzler, is an effective motivator of men cut from the same cloth as Dan Campbell. He will get that team fired up. The issue, though, as you mentioned, is Derek Carr is such a personality drain, an emotion sink, a man of negativity. No virtues, no morals, no nothing. Hated by everybody in that city of New Orleans. There's a reason they were cheering for Jameis last year. If they want to win, they're going to have to force feed it to Kamara against this weaker Falcons front 7, make the defenders on the back end, Simmons, Terrell, get involved in the running game and come up and make some tackles, tire them out to open some things up for their mediocre wide receivers and non-existent passing attack. I'm not optimistic. The Falcons are winning this one. Not much more needs to be said. I think we've agreed about every pick so far, so I'm going to need you to throw in a curveball here.
Well, the 49ers Buccaneers, another game that most people are probably largely in agreement on. Under normal circumstances, I think I would pick the 49ers in a landslide victory. They have Christian McCaffrey coming back, and the Buccaneers, they have the best two players on their offense besides Baker Mayfield are not playing this week.
Incorrect. Tristan Wirfs is still playing. We do not disrespect the tackles.
Offensive threats that are the ones that score points.
Hey, man, Tristan Wirfs does for this team, he scores points. You need to adopt the Jim Harbaugh approach of offensive linemen being weapons.
People who catch touchdown passes.
You know, Penei Sewell not too long ago motioned out of the act for the lines and caught a touchdown, so it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Whatever.
You want to throw in a mulligan if Tristan Wirfs catches a touchdown?
Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they're injured. They're not playing. But over the last 3 games, when the Buccaneers have been dealing with injuries, this team has still put up 31, 26, and 24 points. And Cade Otton has proven to be one of the better tight ends in the NFL. He's been balling out. So I think this Buccaneers team is going to make it closer than 49ers fans would like it to be. I think they're going to make the 49ers a little bit nervous in Christian McCaffrey's return. But I would still pick the 49ers to win because they have the lifeblood of their offense returning. And over the last 5 seasons, Kyle Shanahan is 4-1 off of a bye. So I think the 49ers still win.
Yeah, the bye week does carry. It's not going to be close. You're wrong about the Cade Otton thing. Among teams in the NFL, I believe 300 yards. The 49ers are allowing the 4th fewest yards in terms of tight end production from opposing defenses. Fred Warner, absolute monster in coverage. Better than maybe any other coverage linebacker in history, besides maybe Bobby Wagner at the height of his powers. Sensational stuff from him. Otton is not going to be able to get it going. They're going to be forced to rely on their other receivers. Maybe White, maybe Irvin gets something going on the ground. I wouldn't be optimistic. CMC is back. He's running away with this thing. Pair him with Jordan Mason, a dynamic tandem, a power, a thunder and lightning. It's going to be sensational. 49ers are blowing the doors off the Buccaneers.
And then we have the Steelers heading to Washington to take on the Commanders, and the Steelers are finally playing a real team. All of their victories this season have largely been against cupcakes. I mean, the couple games they've won against teams that are probably going to be in the playoffs was the Falcons in week 1 with Kirk Cousins coming fresh off the Achilles, a very banged up Chargers team when Justin Herbert was dealing with an ankle injury, and now they're playing a Commanders team that has one of the best rookie quarterbacks in recent memory and has the ability to put up a lot of points, plus a Dan Quinn-led defense that has gotten better every single week. I understand the Commanders' last 2 weeks haven't exactly been great. The Giants game was closer than you'd like it to be. They needed a Hail Mary to beat the Bears, but with Jaden Daniels, the Terry McLaurin career resurgence, if Brian Robinson is able to come back from his hamstring injury this week, the Commanders are going to beat the Steelers, and I don't think it's going to be particularly close.
Well, you're wrong and you feel bad about yourself. Look, this Steelers defense remains among the best in football. They match up brilliantly with this Commanders offense, who is super run reliant. With Patrick Queen, that front seven, not many teams are running effectively on the Steelers. Around the edge with TJ Watt against these sorry Commanders tackles, good Lord, that man is going to feast. He's one of the few edge players whose speed can really keep up with Jaden Daniels, who is not going to get absolutely smoked in a foot race if push comes to shove. Watt is going to be a massive factor this game. I think he has the game of his career, brings Jaden Daniels down multiple times, gets him on the ground, forces a turnover, gets something going. Talk about the Commanders' defense looking better. They play 2 bad offenses. I get adding Lattimore does benefit their secondary. I think it takes him a second or 2 to get readjusted into that new competent winning system. A system he has not been a part of for a long time, given how sorry the Saints have been recently. The Steelers' passing attack looks completely different with Russell Wilson, and now they have gone down and gotten him another player who, like George Pickens, complements his play style of chucking up bombs down the sideline. They're going to be running dual go routes every single play with Pickens on one side and Mike Williams on the other, just zooming, finding the mismatch, finding the weakness, finding the open man, and capitalizing on it. The running game for the Steelers, very good this year. Najee Harris, exceptional performance these past few weeks, has kept the Steelers offense on schedule and on time, and he's going to do that again against a weaker Commanders defensive line. The Pittsburgh Steelers are winning this game. They are maintaining their spot atop the AFC North, and the haters like you who believe Mike Tomlin will ever finish below 500 will continue to be in shambles.
I find it hard to believe the Steelers are going to win this week. You're putting a little bit too much optimism in that Steelers offense because it's not like they played overly difficult games the last 2 weeks. And I mentioned how easy their schedule has been. And I think the Commanders are going to offer something for this Steelers defense that they haven't seen all year long.
And what's that? A mobile quarterback. They deal with a mobile quarterback every day in practice. They've got a perfect quarterback on their practice field to answer Jaden Daniels' mobility. That's not going to be a surprise to him. Oh man, this quarterback's so fast. We haven't seen that since Friday.
And Jaden Daniels is capable of throwing the ball over the middle of the field and delivering accurate passes. I mean,
it's not that far over the middle. That sucker does not go downfield. We've been having some Bo Nix discourse, so he really did air it out once or twice a game. You're wrong. You should feel bad. And speaking of feeling bad, Titans fans who watch this game are going to feel bad. This game is going to go the exact same way as every Chargers game has done this year. The Titans offense is going to do absolutely nothing. Maybe they're going to string some long incremental drives together, get 10 points off those, but other than that, shut out for the majority of the game. The Chargers offense, slow, methodical. They're going to get shut out plenty as well, but they're going to have one or two splash plays, gets them down the field, gets them points. It's going to be about 23-10 going into the fourth quarter. The Titans offense is going to drive down the field. They're going to score a touchdown to make it a one-score game, and then the Chargers offense is going to run the ball out, and the game will be over. Uninspiring football all around, which the Chargers will emerge victorious from.
You droned on too much about this game. You really just need 2 sentences. All you need to take a look at is the Titans needed overtime to beat the Patriots last week, and the Chargers are giving up 12.6 points a game. So it would be a shock if this Titans team that struggled to put up 20 points last week against the Patriots is able to put up even 10 against this Chargers defense.
Hey man, I don't know if you passed elementary school or kindergarten. That was more than 2 sentences right there.
I
sense a little bit of bitterness. A little bit of bitterness there from someone who predicted the Patriots to win last week. But hey, we don't need to get into that. Would you like to do the Cowboys-Eagles game? Because I saw some
we have the Jets and Cardinals.
Do we have the Jets and Cardinals? I got the Cowboys-Eagles. If you'd like to talk about the Jets and Cardinals, by all means. I know you love Aaron Rodgers.
The Jets and Cardinals. I was negative about the Cardinals for about 2 to 3 weeks after they were disappointing for a couple games at the beginning of the season, but I am becoming a believer in them once again. Their defense over the last few weeks seems to be getting better every single week under Jonathan Gannon. They're really starting to understand how to play Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. off of each other. Their offense is starting to come together. They're coming together as a team. And when it comes to the Jets, I don't think a lot of fans are overly optimistic, but congratulations. You beat up on a Texans team that was missing their best 2 receivers, and their quarterback has been sacked 30 times over 9 games. That was not exactly a shocking victory, to say the least. So the Cardinals, they're rolling, they're building momentum, they're looking to make a push to win the NFC West, and I think this Cardinals team is going to get a victory against the Jets at home.
God, you're unbearable sometimes, man. Talking down to the Jets fans for being excited, they beat up on a Texans team who many were calling Super Bowl favorites going into the year, who still have a winning record and
much different team at the beginning of the year versus what they were last week.
You're just a hater, man. You are just a hater, and that's okay.
That's not hating. That's called being real and objective.
You are the way you are. I understand being the little brother in your own city, the city of
little
New
brother
York, is a bit insulting.
The Jets are 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah, the Jets are the little brother. The Jets are much better than the Giants right now, and they're winning this week. You talk about the Cardinals winning 3 straight, trying to diminish the Jets' success. The Cardinals beat up on a Chargers offense, which was still dealing with injuries, on a Miami team who just got Tua back, and we're not quite in the flow of things. And, of course, last week against the Chicago Bears offense and their defense missing their best player. I'm unmoved, man. Talk about their defense getting better week to week. Old man Rodgers is not moved by a slow 6-man blitz or 8 guys dropping back in zone coverage. He is going to find Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams. This offense is moving the ball. Breece Hall is moving the ball outside the tackles against this Cardinals defense. Unless Budda Baker makes an absurd 12, 13, 14 tackles on him in open space, he's eventually going to pop one. Looking at the other side of the ball, I think this Cardinals offense is well put together. They're going to be able to move the ball fairly well, but if push comes to shove and they are reliant on their passing attack solely, they take James Conner out of the game, they're not that good. Sauce Gardner will be playing this week. He is going to match up well with Marvin Harrison Jr., kind of eliminate that threat, which leaves them with a deep backfield and Trey McBride. So all in all, not overly moved in this matchup for the Cardinals. I think it favors the Jets. I think the Jets are more experienced. I think they're more talented in quite a few areas. I think they emerge victorious over this one on the road. It's also in a dome, in a desert, which favors Aaron Rodgers.
I think you're just trying to be a little bit different with 2 of these last 3 games, trying to,
I think your brain's got different chemistry, man. We got to do something
much more
much fewer,
things going on
much smoother. Water caresses off your brain very easily. Eagles Cowboys. I saw some great analysis on this one by the Fusco show. Some lovely Eagles fans talking about, well, they originally had this game as a 55-0 blowout for the Eagles. The combination of Micah Parsons being back, an elite kicker, and Cooper Rush, who is a big upgrade over Dak Prescott being in the lineup, moved them all the way up to it being 52-20. But then, of course, they brought right back down to our talking about, well, Mike McCarthy's still the coach, so final score 82-3. And I'm going to be a little bit more generous than them. I think the final score is about 60-10 this week. The Eagles are destroying this Cowboys team. Saquon Barkley is hitting emotes on defenders in the middle of the air. What do you think he's going to do to one of the worst run defenses in football? It is going to be a massacre. The only way this game is not a 30-plus point blowout is that everybody gets pulled to start the second half, like a quality varsity team scrimmaging against a bunch of 12-year-olds on JV. It's different levels of football. The Eagles are smoking the Cowboys.
Well, the other way the game could be closer than it should be is if Nick Sirianni and that coaching staff or the play on the field doesn't execute in big moments like they did last week. A couple failed 4th down conversions, a couple failed 2-point conversions, and all of a sudden the game's closer than it should be given the talent discrepancy.
God forbid we entertain the fans who showed up to watch a game in the rain. Nick Sirianni's a good guy, man.
Good guy, may not be a good coach.
He's a good guy.
I don't think it really either may be true. Although I haven't met him, so I can't say. Either way, I largely agree with everything that you said. Saquon Barkley is going to victimize that Cowboys defense. It doesn't really matter if Micah Parsons is back. CeeDee Lamb is banged up on the offensive side of the ball. And after CeeDee Lamb, the Cowboys haven't really been all that productive this season. Jake Ferguson hasn't really gotten things going. And you're going to have your backup quarterback, Cooper Rush, in there, who's behind an offensive line that's not the same Cowboys offensive line of old. So all around, it's going to be a disaster class in Dallas.
Not even mentioning Jonathan Mingo, I see. Worth as much to that Cowboys organization as Mark Cooper based off draft compensation.
Listen, Jerry Jones, he's in the twilight of his career.
Of his life.
Lions, Texans. Another game that
just gonna casually throw out Jerry Jones's dice. Just gonna glance over that and talk about the Lions. Okay, man. A little macabre, but we can do it.
Lions, Texans, another game that is going to be a blowout in the state of Texas. I mentioned how many times CJ Stroud has been sacked this season earlier, 30 times over 9 games. This Lions team is looking like the most complete team in the NFL. Their defense, they just added a pass rusher in Zadarius Smith. On the offensive side of the ball, they're running the ball at an extremely high level. Jared Goff is only passing when he truly needs to. Jamison Williams is back off of that suspension. I think we are going to see an equally dominant game that we're going to see from the Eagles versus the Cowboys with the Lions versus the Texans.
Yeah, it's time for us to find out if Zadarius Smith is actually going to take Detroit to the next level, because in the last 2 games they've recorded 1 sack. Far fewer pressures. You can tell if you watch those games. The pass rush is not as good without Hutch. Not a shocking statement there, but you could see it slowing them down in the playoffs against a really good team. If Zadarius Smith can pick up that production, get them going in the pass rush, this team may be unstoppable in the NFC. Against a weak Texans offensive line, he has got a great opportunity to do that. CJ Stroud is a demon at home, an absolute monster when playing in Texas. On the road, not quite as good, but he's in Houston this week. I expect a fairly effective performance from him, even though the talent around him will not rise to the occasion. Going to get everything he can out of Tank Dell. Joe Mixon is going to have to be effective. He has to run the ball well if this team wants to stay on schedule and get things going on the ground. You will not get production from anybody else unless CJ Stroud hits some diabolical epiphany scrambles. I have limited faith, though, that this offense will be able to keep up with the Lions. They're on pace to have 2,000-yard rushers. They're on pace to have Jared Goff have the highest completion percentage we have ever seen from a quarterback attempting as many passes as he has, and it should generally look how you predicted to. An absolute slobber knocking in favor of the top team in the NFC.
Even if Joe Mixon, this Texans team, they haven't really had a great game all season long, so I don't think they're all of a sudden, there's really a chance for them to put it together against the best team in the NFC, likely the best team in the NFL.
The games they win by running it out, so you never know. Joe Mixon's pretty real. Outside of Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, the two other running backs who are much maligned for changing teams, he has been the best rusher of the football this year. On to our final game of the week, the Rams taking on the Dolphins in LA, and throw out the records for this game. It's going to be a good one. The past 2 weeks, we have seen the Rams defense really step up, in large part due to the performance of their front seven. Unfortunately for them, they were playing weaker offensive lines. The Vikings O-line, not the same once Darisaw went down. The Seahawks O-line, point blank period, stinks. This Dolphins offensive line is allowing the second lowest pressure rate in all of football this year. They are going to match up very well with this Rams front seven and slow them down from the little hot streak they've been on, leaving their secondary to get exposed. We know how bad the Rams secondary is. We saw it earlier in the season when this front seven was not generating pressures, making quarterbacks uncomfortable. The Dolphins offense is scoring points. Likewise, this Rams offense is scoring points. Puka's back. Cup's back. Kyron Williams is Kyron Williams.